little different setting than our typical office setting or garage or living room. We're actually on the ice. Is this the first time we've done this, Drew? On the ice? I can't remember. Have we done one on the ice before?
I don't think we have, no.
Yeah, we've done them remote. We've been all over, but I think this is the first one we're on the ice. So another episode of the Ice Team podcast. This is going to be a whole lot of fun. You guys know Drew. You've seen Tom. Tom's been on a bunch of times. And we got a new special guest, Nate Grave. I've known Nate for 12 years.
Yeah, 12, 13 years.
You were on the pro staff at Clam for 3-4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then you decided to get away from the cold, go down to Florida, and guide full-time on the Salt.
Yes.
I mean, maybe walk us through as we get into, so our listeners know who you are, a little bit about maybe your background in fishing, and then how you got into the whole like salt game, and then what brought you back here. I think the story is great. Maybe jump into that for a few minutes.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, grew up, just water. Anytime I could be on the water, northern Minnesota and in the cities, and then my grandfather was actually a fisherman down in the Florida Keys after World War II. So a lot of history down there. And so we've always kind of had a presence. And back in 2016, we just...
Dude, you see how popular he is? He's getting phone like they know he's talking.
That's why we can't have Thane on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you don't need to apologize. We've seen it all.
My wife and I felt this calling to move down to the Keys, and it was cool because I felt that calling, and I was like, I'm not going to press this. I'm not going to move my family across the country. 3 little boys, we're doing pretty well for ourselves, and I was praying about it. I'm like, all right, God, I'll make this real easy on you. You want us to move, you tell my wife, because I'm not going to. And it was just a few days later, she's like, where are we at with you becoming a guide? And I'm like, we just can't do it. Just can't afford it. And she's like, it's time. We're going to do it. And I was like, we can't do it up here. She's like, I think we're supposed to move to Florida. I just feel like we're called to move to Florida.
Your wife said that.
Yeah. Without me talking to her about it.
You're like in your sleep. You're just like, we got to move to Florida.
Yeah, whispering. Yeah.
Florida's like, Florida.
Yeah. Like,
you're like, I've been hearing things all night.
Yeah. So, and it wasn't a fast move. It took us about a year, and we had big family tragedy. Lost some family members that year, and job change, and we move, and it was a really tough year, and we just and then the day we go to move, Irma pops up on the radar and just destroyed the Florida Keys right where we were moving. So it was crazy. So when we moved down there, all I did the first 4 months was just clean, repair houses and clean up after the hurricane. So, I mean, it was, and most of the guys, when they start guiding right out of high school or during high school, their first mating. So I'm entering the game down there at, 34 years old. So
you did well.
Yeah.
I followed you. You caught a lot of fish. I remember you were messaging me randomly throughout the years of different fish you caught. I mean, it's got to be amazing. Like, it's got to be a life experience to say you went down there, you guided. I know you were texting back and forth with me early on about boats. And you're like, I need to get a good boat. I need to get a reliable boat. And you jumped on one that I remember you told me at the time, you're like, I am so underpowered out here. Underpowered, undersized.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. You still went out there and caught a pile of fish.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do it. Now, it would take me a lot of time to figure it out, but you went down there trial by fire and became a successful captain on the ocean.
It was, I feel very blessed to be able to do that. My first year it was tough. I only did like 40, 50 charters. Next year was double. And the next year after that was, like now we're talking 150. But then of course, COVID hit, and they actually, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Keys. I mean, it's a 110-mile chain of islands. They actually put a roadblock up and stopped. We had 0 charters. They didn't let anyone come into the Keys unless you lived there. So, I mean, it really shut us down for a few months.
How did you make a living at that point? Like, what'd you do?
You couldn't do anything. There's nowhere to work. The restaurants had no business. The hotels had no business. But as soon as they opened it up June 1st of 2020, it was like 3 years of all I could do was turn down charters. I could have fished, 400 charters a year, doubles, you name it. And I was turning down 150 charters a year because I just couldn't do it.
People were itching to get out, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, well, and the thing is, people couldn't go to the Bahamas. They couldn't go to Mexico. They couldn't go to the Caribbean. So everybody just poured into the Keys, and business was really booming.
Hey Tom, you recently went to the Salt.
I did.
Did you catch something?
Yeah, pretty crazy. We caught a 150-pound marlin. Big shout out to my wife. When we got married, she was trying to pick where we wanted to go on our honeymoon. And I told her, I was like, I don't care wherever you want to go, as long as we can go fishing. So she picked Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, and I was like, all right, let's see what we can catch down there. Didn't take long to figure out that they have some pretty world-class marlin fishing down there. So
Oh yeah.
Yep.
How long is that fish?
How long?
Yeah, how long? I mean, I just remember seeing a picture on Facebook. It was like the whole back.
Be like 80,
Transom
80,
covered.
90-inch fish.
It was probably like 7.5 feet long, something like that.
Yeah.
Took three-person fish.
Three-person fish.
Three-person
yes.
fish.
Yep. We fought it for like 45 minutes. It was pretty epic.
What do you do with it? What did they do with it when they?
We released it. So Tori took a bunch of pictures. We actually only had it out of the water for like 5 minutes total. It was pretty quick. Pick it up over the side of the boat, take some pictures, and then let her go. So
I can't believe you said the guide hand. He grabbed the thing by the bill or whatever.
Grabbed it by the bill.
That's wild.
It was.
You
crazy.
have to.
I mean, like, it's just crazy to go grab. Like, those things can, like, they can hurt you.
Yeah.
Like, you've seen those videos of them things walking, they jump in the boat. You're like, oh my God, that's like a spear coming right at me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty epic though. He just literally just reached over the boat and grabbed it, and we were fighting it, and the whole time he was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to grab it. Sometimes it breaks at the leader, so I'm gonna do my best. And it came up to the side of the boat 5-6 times, and finally on that last time he grabbed it and
horsed it
over the side. Yeah,
You didn't lip it?
No, it didn't lip it. No.
Kind of a Ned rig too.
Ned rig, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Have you
Green
caught
pumpkin.
marlin? Nate?
Never got marlin, sailfish, plenty of
Sailfish, yeah.
sailfish, just a smaller marlin and almost, but the bigger fin.
Yep.
I've seen plenty of them, anywhere from 100 pounds up to, 900, 1,000 pounders down the Keys.
1,000 pounds.
That's insane.
They're big.
This one that we caught was, like I said, 150, 160 pounds, and I cannot imagine a 1,000-pounder.
No.
Like, the amount of just sheer power that this thing had, it was insane.
Crazy.
1,000 pounds. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
150 pounds. I couldn't imagine. Yeah. I mean, I think of like this 50, 60-pound sturgeon.
Oh,
and then you look at 3 times that size
in the salt.
In the salt.
They're juiced up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah, the metabolism of those fish down there is just nuts. Like, you come out here and you catch a 2-pound, bass, on the lake, and I love it. 2-pound test, 3-pound test. It's a riot to me. Yeah. But it's funny is you go down there and you catch a 3-pound like yellowtail snapper, you better have 15-pound test. Yeah. Like easily. They'll scorch your line. They're the way they feed so voraciously. I mean, it's teach. Some people, that's all they want is the saltwater fish. But for me, I love embracing each area that you fish in. That's what I love about being on hard water like this.
What's the most memorable fish you caught down in the salt, Nate?
Oh, man. Actually, on the background of my phone, I caught, this was on my wife's birthday. We caught, we went out and caught, of course, I can't even show it, but I have all these things on here. But this was a big African pompano. And It was cool. It was probably about 25 pounds. And it's not that it was the biggest fish, but it was caught on super light tackle.
African pompano?
Yep.
And they live in the Keys.
Yeah. Yep.
But you find them in Africa?
I don't think they had. I don't think they have them over there. So,
question mark.
But what's cool is my middle one caught it on. It was on my wife's birthday, so it's just this really cool on like 15-pound test. So it was just a long fight.
Are you casting at these things?
So I'm dropping over wrecks for those with like live baits.
Oh, okay. So you're just finding you probably have 1 million wrecks marked. I would.
Oh
think.
yeah, there's quite a few of them down there. So
yeah,
I would say that just because of the experience of that one, that was the greatest. I mean, I did get to see one great white shark and just like it was just kind of bumping my boat, and that was really intense.
I've watched a ton of the TV shows where the guys go down fishing in the Keys, and they start their day like catching their bait a lot of times.
Yeah.
Is that something you did?
That's why my right shoulder's done.
Really? From throwing the net?
Well, it's like it's a 12-foot net, and it's it's probably a good 16-pound net. So, and you're throwing it anywhere from hopefully one cast, get your 500 baits, but it's every day's.
What happens if you don't get bait?
You better know what to do.
You have to get bait.
Well, you can use cut bait. You can use cut bait, but it depends. But I mean, like you can troll for tuna, but if you want to catch big tuna, you got to have live bait. So,
well, you said you got your marlin on live bait, right?
Yeah. So we were actually trolling like big, I don't know, 10, 12-inch streamers or plugs.
Yeah.
And it came up and hit one of those. It missed it. We turned the boat around and they threw out a live bait rig and then just fed it line. So
it was a little. They're feeding them bonita.
Yeah, little bonita. Yep.
What is that like?
It's a small tuna. It's like a bloody. Like you wouldn't really eat them. You could, but they're pretty dark red. But so they're small tunas.
That's what you catch that when you throw the net.
No, we're catching like mainly pilchards, which is like almost looks like a mix between like a shiner and I don't know. They're like taller, but we call them razor bellies or greenbacks because like they're like you could literally cut your finger on their bellies. They're very sharp,
really sharp. Did you ever do any of the tarpon fishing down there?
I did. So usually tarpon and mahi are in at the same time, and I love mahi fishing way more. But if it was windy, I'm going to stay in and tarpon fish. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I got anything over like 150 pounds, but
shoot.
Yeah, right.
Rats.
We're catching little bluegills.
I've heard of just some outrageous stories of guys catching those tarpon, like
they're
following
awesome.
them for hours, and the things just don't give up.
Yeah, they will. I had guys that literally would be like, I'm done. Just break the line.
Really?
Yeah, they're like, just drive up on it and break it. I mean,
they're like zigging and zagging through those bridges and stuff.
Yep.
That's unbelievable.
But I mean, when they hit those things and by the time you get the rod out of the rod holder, he's already gone vertical 3-4 times sometimes. I mean, watching a fish that big get airborne.
I've heard just people talking about salt, like hooking up with like a shark or something that you're not fishing for. It's like wild how for 1 second the fish could be here, and then you think you're like catching up to it, and then you like look over here and your fish is like 100 feet that way.
Yeah.
And you're like a big bow in your line. You're like, how the heck did that thing even get there?
Yeah.
Like there's just something different about the salt. Like you said, the metabolism and everything it's wild. Like, you can't experience it.
I've had fish
until you're there.
Jump clean over my boat, over my T-top.
No kidding.
Like 11 feet in the air, clearing the whole boat, barracudas. And if you picture like marlin, sailfish, they're the fastest fish out there. They're known to go close to 70 miles an hour. And wahoo are in like the low 60 miles an hour. But if you picture like a wahoo, picture this, picture you're standing on the road. This is what a live bait feels when it gets hit by a wahoo. Picture you're standing on the road and a semi going 60 miles an hour, and its grill is made of ninja swords.
Oh my God. Just trucks you.
I mean, the baits, I've seen bonita, like you can relate to this. I've seen bonitas that are cut in half instantly.
Yeah.
Just whap. So they're very impressive fish.
Yeah.
Jeez. That's a 180 from your upper Midwest panfish ice fishing bite in the middle of January.
Yeah.
We were out fishing. We actually been fishing here the couple hours before, and it seems like the fish were a little stingy, I guess. They weren't like early ice coming up and just, hammering your bait. You had to kind of coax them.
Yeah,
got a lot of bass.
Yeah.
Well, we just had 4 days of
it's been
20
cold,
below
man.
zero, and I mean it did warm up, but we do have a front that came through today.
Yeah.
It's gonna
you got a
progressively
little
get
bit
colder.
little bit of snow, all that good stuff. So, not surprised that they were a little finicky today.
No,
we caught a bunch.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you could probably coax. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't put down the pinhead. Drew and I on our last episode told ourselves we cannot mention the word pinhead.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because we mentioned it like 67 times, and we did pretty good. But that's all I've been fishing today is a pinhead.
See, that's what I like about this kind of fishing though, versus like in the Keys, is it's a really intimate setting. I mean, I'm sitting there, I'm one-on-one with this fish. I'm trying to coax him up. I'm crack open that Red Bull, and I'm just, it's like this. It's intense. It's it's funny. It's like, us Midwestern fishermen, we're all about like structure and marks. And I go down to the Keys, and I'm just driving along. See, these guys all have spots. They don't just go somewhere random there, unless you're mahi fishing, so they're going to spots. So then I go down there, I'm like, I mark something, I stop, I drop, and I catch fish. And someone will say, well, what spot were you on? I'm like, I don't know. I marked fish. He's like, you can't just mark fish and drop your anchor, and it's like, but that's what I picked up is like really paying attention to your sonar. And that's what I love about fishing in areas like this. Like we're watching every flicker on that flasher, every little thing,
Right. You get in tune with everything. It's
yeah.
one big system and all that stuff. And then you even notice, like I've seen this morning, some fish come racing up and they want to eat. Some fish don't.
Yeah.
And usually the ones that come racing up are in my opinion, are one of two things: a small fish or just an aggressive predator like a bass or something like that. So if you're trying to catch a bigger bluegill or a bigger crappie that might be a little more lethargic and you're working it, and the other mark comes by and spanks it, as we've seen today, it's probably a largemouth or it's a small little bluegill. So the behavior of your better size fish is going to be a little more negative. And I've seen that even when the bite's good, your big crappies, your big bluegills, they're not just choking it. They're still a little more negative. They've kind of more been in tune with their surroundings.
Yeah.
We're in 6, 8, 10 feet of water here. The largemouth are the apex predator in there right now.
Yep.
They're eating everything that swims around. So it's no secret that we've caught a bunch of those. It's kind of fun. But the bigger panfish, they're a little more finicky.
Yeah. But it's really fun, like seeing the reaction when you're trying different baits. That's why I like keep, extra rods on me right there. I just like, nope. And sometimes I'll be lowering one while I'm reeling the other one up because I don't want to lose him in the transition because
keep him there.
And you're watching, especially if you have like a split zoom, like, I've got an FL28 and I'm watching that split zoom and I'm getting close and you're seeing that, like, you got the red of the fish, but you got a little bit of green flickering. You're like, wait, you can see his fins are activating. Like he's like, all right, I'd like to look at that a little bit better. So it's really fun seeing that. Like I dropped this one. Oh, I got him. You see that flickering, and all of a sudden your heart just is like, boo, 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 and speeds
engaged.
up. Oh yeah.
And even when you catch one of them largemouth, it's fun to catch a largemouth. It's a blast. But like we're trying to catch a big walleye, something else. So every time you like set the hook and you're like, this is a lot heavier than a bluegill.
Yeah.
You get excited. I mean, we've all kind of gone over to each other as they hook a larger fish this morning to lend a hand in anticipation for something different. And then like, oh man, it's a bass. In the summer, you catch a 2-3 pound largemouth. You're like, hey, this is pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
Today's not our target species, so we hook one of those. It's like, sorry, bro, you're on your own. You can land it yourself.
It's pretty crazy how the species on this lake just changes from summer. It's just like bass, 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 bass. Then you get like some musky guys. And no one really thinks about panfish. I guess in the springtime before bass and walleye season's open, it's all crappies. Like how many people on this lake just turn to crappies?
It's
is
hundreds
wild.
of people.
Yeah.
I know. And then now bass are laid off and it's panfish again.
Yeah.
And then walleyes for like 1 hour a night.
And if you found the spot that we're on now in the summer on this quantity of bass, you'd lean on it for the next 3 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a school of bass here. And here we are, to your point, Drew, in the winter going like, ugh. I mean, some of them were nice. Some of them were 3-pounders. I mean, it wasn't like they're all 12 inches,
You'd kill for 2 to 3 pounders on a jig worm all day on this lake,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Then you'd probably mix in a 4-pounder here and there, and you'd have a great day.
I mean, 15 pounds in the Blackfish Classic last year, that cashed a check.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a check on this spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just these fish just spread out once the ice is gone.
That's fun. Speaking of salt, though, before we move on,
Sure.
What's your favorite fish to eat?
Ooh.
Like what was the oh man, yes, when you brought it boatside, like
blue line tilefish. We catch them. I mean, I love mahi, but you get so much of it in the summer. It's like I'll have an extra, 20 pounds of fillets, 30 pounds of fillets, and after the clients took their 10 or whatever they wanted, and so I love mahi, but you just eat so much of it. Snapper's great. Making ceviche, but honestly, black and blue line tilefish, they're cold water. We're catching them on bottom and anywhere from 400 on the shallow end to 1,200 feet deep. Wow. I'm on bottom with electric reels, and they just taste so good. Their meat feels like silk in your hand. It's like it's not a stiff fillet. It like drops between your fingers. It's so soft. So
what does it taste like?
Boy, texture-wise, like when you look at it, you're like, oh man, that could be a walleye. But picture a walleye that is so soft it almost falls apart.
Do you cook them then?
Yeah. Yep.
How do you cook them?
Just I personally I like to blacken them, just straight blacken. You really get the flavor out of those tilefish. Mahi, same thing, but mahi you can eat anyway. Snapper I like to fry or make ceviche. But honestly, the best, I think, like if I was going to cook it, black and tilefish, if I was going to eat it raw, wahoo, hands down. It's like butter. Oh, dude, you can't.
So how is that going to compare to the brats I cook you guys like in an hour?
Oh God!
Like we're going to have you rate them, like compare them to your tile fish and some better with cheddars here in about an hour and a half.
Hey, teach your own. It's the same thing. It's like, I love the fish down there, but it's certain meals up here on a different day get me just as excited, because I am all about the food. I actually do private chefing on the side for clients, and I'm all, so I got to say I'm gonna critique your brat cooking. So
you toast, dude.
Yeah, I'm done.
Good thing they're pre-cooked.
They are pre-cooked. I just gotta heat them up. Yeah, I'm gonna
just make it look good.
I'm gonna score the bejesus out of Nate's too, just to make it look all fancy,
blackened.
Yeah, you're gonna get a blackened cheddar brat this afternoon.
Hey, now we're on to something. I like it.
Tile fish brat.
You have a program you put together called Freeline TV.
Yes.
Maybe explain that a little bit too. I've watched some of it. People can watch it on YouTube.
Sure.
Maybe give a little background on that too.
Well, since I was in kindergarten, I wanted to have a fishing show, but back then, it was called Bait with Nate. But it was pretty clever for a kindergartner, you know. But
does it still exist?
No.
Okay.
But the one thing I never wanted with the having a fishing show, and this is, I went to like. Actually, right here in Spring Park, I went there to their public station and trained how to use their cutting, camera equipment before everything was really digital.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a lifelong thing for me, but I just never wanted the show to be about me. I didn't want to be like the focus. So finally, when Freeline came together, it was, it is a faith-based show. I wanted something good for kids to watch. It was just, there's so much garbage out there right now. And I really wanted something healthy for kids to watch. It was entertaining, fun, but I really like to spotlight people in the community. Mm-hmm. So we did, we're in a Folds of Honor. I actually did an episode with an Air Force pilot who was part of America's initial, he was the second B-2 bomber off the runway in our response to 9/11. And just let him tell his story and show what that was all about. Just focusing on him and how he defended the Constitution, just stuff like that. I think is really great. But what's really fun is to interview people while they're catching the fish. I don't do it in this kind of setting. I'm I wait until their adrenaline's going and I ask them fun, questions like that. So yeah, it was really very fun to see how the whole show came together. I feel very blessed, and I'm really excited to start doing it here in Minnesota. So.
Yeah. Sweet. And so you got episodes out there right now if someone wants to watch.
Yeah.
They can Google it or YouTube it.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, you can find it at Freeline TV on YouTube. Yep.
Very, very cool. And now you're going to be back here catching bluegills and bass and walleyes.
Yep. Hopefully do an episode with you.
Yeah. I'm sure we could figure that out. Get some adrenaline going on some of these fish.
Oh, I'm telling you, something about having to twist a crappie that is so big through a hole because he won't fit. That's
Yeah, Nate's caught some big ones. So Nate, when I first met you, pre your saltwater experience, I think we crossed paths because you were a crappie fanatic, and all you wanted to do was catch a big one.
Yeah.
I was introduced to you by Steve.
Yep.
Gertson. I know you guys went to church together.
Yep.
And right away we had a common ground because we were talking true giants. What the Chronicles are doing now.
Yep.
Is what we did back then, right? So we talked about big crappies, 16s, 17s, 18s.
Yeah.
And that's what I remember brought us together because you're like, oh, I got a couple of lakes that I've been getting some big ones and, this and that. And how do you chase them? And we started jaw jacking back and forth.
Yeah.
Then I remember you talked about hole hopping.
Mm-hmm.
You were making hoppers, buckets.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's crazy how things evolve. But I remember those first conversations where Steve was like, I met this guy. Yeah, he goes to church with me. He caught like a 3-pound crappie. I'm like, I got to meet them. 3 pound, and I'm like, yeah, we could see. And then I was introduced to you, and that's kind of how we kicked it off. So, are you going to chase some giants again?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm getting back into it. It's my kids, I'm finding out which of my, I got 3 boys, 11, 13, 15, find out which ones want to do that with me, and but it's something about. I don't know. It's like this flutter in my heart when I start turning a lake into Swiss cheese. Oh man, you're chasing, you're hole hopping, you're trolling, you're drilling grids, and I know there's all the tech nowadays, but I'm a little bit more of a traditionalist. But something about you pulling up a crappie like that. I caught one crappie on a shiner minnow.
Yeah.
That was like 2 pounds 6 ounces, and it was like, I mean, you can't help but just get hooked after you see something like that.
And this was pre-forward facing sonar.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I heard you make a comment to Drew today when Drew was using it, and you're like, I have never seen this in action before. Was that true, or are you just being...
No, I've never seen it.
So you saw forward-facing sonar for your first time today?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I've never seen it. We don't use it in the Keys because, first of all, the water's didn't clear. You can see all your structure. You can see the fish down there in the shallow water. And by the time it gets to, because I don't think forward-facing sonar really goes that deep, does it?
They make saltwater transducer. I know Garmin does, and it shoots pretty far. But I don't know. I guess I'm not the right guy to ask.
Because if it didn't read over 100 feet deep, I wouldn't care, because some of the wrecks I fished down there, I could see my wreck in 90 feet of water.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So, I mean, I could see the Goliath groupers sitting down there next to him. So
I'm pretty sure even the one I have, I've shot it out 200 feet if I'm over. I've had it over 90 feet of water, I guess, and you can see suspended fish, but I'm probably not looking super sharp on the bottom. Yeah. Like I'm looking for like one swimming up high that like sticks out obvious.
It's a little more active.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, if you're fishing a specific wreck, like you just pull up to the wreck and, drop down your bait.
So if we go chase a big crappie, I can't bring my forward-facing sonar?
You might be better without it sometimes on those big ones.
Well, that's just how it was. I mean, that's just how it was. When I met you when we were chasing those big ones, it wasn't even, no one even knew it was a thought.
Yeah.
It didn't exist. Like that technology wasn't even discussed. Like it didn't even, someone wasn't even like, oh, do you see the stuff they're working on? Like it wasn't even, so you didn't even conceptualize using it. You did exactly what you said. You're like, this is going to hurt. I'm going to cut 300 holes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to chase and run and sprint after fish until I can't. And then you started figuring out the direction they would move based off of their patterns and your hole configuration.
Yep.
Okay, this is the way they're moving. This is what they're doing. Now you punch one hole, you drop that deucer down, you spin and go, they're going that way.
Yeah.
And by the way, they're 50 feet away.
Yeah.
So
it's wild.
It's gonna ruin you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But
oh no, I get it.
Yeah,
I get
it does make a big
takes out
difference.
the guesswork.
100%. I mean, we talked about this the other day again at Thorn, that if forward-facing sonar was banned, 100%, it would hurt a little bit because I've become reliant on it. I'll be honest, but I'd be 100% in favor of that.
Yeah.
I only say that because it would take away the guesswork again. Like, I still like to know that next hole I drop my deucer down might have some fish in it. That's just me. I still would like to be like, versus like you punch a hole and go, there's nothing here. I'm not even going to waste my time. So I mean, I would be okay with it, to be honest. I mean, I think, I don't know. Would I catch less? I don't know. I don't honestly know. And I've made this comment on the show before. If you look at my best 10 days of fishing in my entire life, it was pre-forward facing sonar.
Yeah.
It wasn't since I've had it on my boat and for ice. It was prior. So I don't really know, but it's a hot topic. I mean, they just did that huge write-up. I don't know if you guys saw that on Care 11. It's got a ton of traffic on YouTube.
Yeah.
They
talking
had some
about
clickbait on that sucker.
Talking about forward-facing sonar, and I don't know. I guess we'll see what the future holds and what happens. But
I'm just protective of the fish, I think. 'Cause, they got nowhere to hide is the one thing. So, and I'm not opposed to it as long as people are respecting the waters. Yeah. Because, like I've seen poachers. I've been around poachers, and it's brutal. Come to think of it, I don't know if it's necessarily called forward facing or whatever but I asked a buddy one day, I said, hey, do you want to go, would you show me how to go marlin fishing on my boat? And he's like, I'm not going on your boat. I'm like, well, why not? I know where some marlin are. He's like, dude, here's what I'm used to. It's the same concept that you guys are talking about. He says, I'm fishing on a $4 million boat that has a $200,000 sonar setup. Wow. So that I know when I go out, I can go and he showed me on his phone screenshots. He's like, there is a 400-pound marlin that is 3/4 of a mile that way, that is 240 feet down. And I'm going to go over there and I'm going to dredge him up and I'm going to do this. But of course, I don't have $200,000 to spend on stuff like that. That's double insane. The cost of my boat, That's insane. So, but for him, he was like, I'm not going marlin fishing on your boat. So,
I mean, conceptually, is that probably why they banned it from musky fishing, tournament fishing? because guys were just literally driving around looking for a fish. They weren't even casting.
Turns into more of a hunting.
Yeah, they're just driving around like there's one, and then they go fish it.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, is it the PMTT?
PMTT, I believe. Yep.
PMTT banned the technology, and I don't know. I guess I can understand that, but in terms of banning it from fishing, I'll still stick to my stance of it's the angler that damages the fishery, not the tool, right? It's the you still need to be educated. Like Drew and I and Tommy could go out with forward faces. We all have them, and we can go pound on the fish, but we're not keeping fish all the time. We're selective on what we do. We preserve the resource. We don't abuse the tool. And I think that's always been my stance on forward facing is, once again, it's not the tool that's going to outfish or fish out this lake.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the person.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so as we educate people, and there's a lot of people doing this very, very well, influencers that are talking about, don't go beat up on those basin crappies in 40 feet of water if you're not going to keep 10 for a meal, right? We've all heard all that, right?
Yeah.
So those are things I think you could consider. I think I've learned to use forward-facing sonar so much as a learning tool. I've shown clients so much more about the underwater world and how fish behave.
Yeah.
And it's also allowed me to be more efficient. I'm cutting less holes. I'm using it as a fish finding tool.
Yeah.
More than a fish catching tool, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think from that perspective, I'm a fool to say I haven't been more efficient since I've had it.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. The efficiency in that is
but
crazy.
you can still go out there and pound on fish without forward face sonar. So a lot of our listeners, and I've had people on social media like, oh, I can't afford it. Like, does that make me, can I not do what you do? No, you can probably do what I do better.
Yeah.
Some days. So it's not an end all be all tool.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think in the open water game, like if I couldn't have it walleye fishing from May to July, I'd be pretty bummed out. Because
I would agree.
Like I'd never caught as many walleyes as I did the last year.
Agreed.
If I didn't have it, you know, because I'd be like dragging a Lindy rig or, you know, maybe trolling something. But now you can just go like on a big vast point or in like a basin even or whatever it is. And you can just selectively find the fish.
Yeah.
Like it's wild. Not even deep water, just fish that are cruising.
I'd agree with that. It definitely takes away some of that.
Ice fishing, people still can sit over the deep holes and catch crappies all day.
Yeah. Or go up in the weeds.
Yeah.
You know, find the weeds. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I don't know what you want to do, Nate.
I don't know. My wife and I had my wife and I were talking recently because, you know, we got 3 boys that are grown up, 2 of them teenagers, and it's like, you know, and all the kids have cell phones, and ours have one that they share that we didn't even have like data on for them until just Christmas this year. And what's kind of fun about that, it's like, you know, I mean, back in the day when we were growing up, I don't remember how old you are. If you're
41.
All right, I'm 42. So, and back then it's like, if we want to find something when we were researching for a school project, we went to the library and we had to find the book, and now you just Google it.
Right.
So it's kind of the same thing. And yeah, it's there. It's great. It's helpful. But at the same time, like my wife and I have kind of lately done this thing where we're like, you know what? Let's just not Google that right now and kind of live in wonder for a little bit. Even though the answer's right there, but just for fun, let's just wonder for a little bit. And I'm kind of the same way with fishing. I'm like, I want to put in the work. I feel better when I put in the work. I feel better when I drill more. It's more rewarding. And it teaches me, I mean, yes, you can learn. Obviously, I would learn a ton from that tech.
Right.
But I think for now, you know, and the fact that I don't have a ton of money right now because we just moved across the country, I'm like, you know what? It's a good excuse to wait on this tech, at least for now.
You're doing fine. You're catching plenty of fish. So
one of my most rewarding ice fishing days was at the cabin before I really knew what I was doing. Gosh, we drilled so many holes, and eventually we just dropped down, and your Vexlar was just a straight Christmas tree. And then you're like, wait, am I like, I thought I was in kind of deeper water. Why does it say like 12 feet? You know,
all fish.
And you drop down, it's just dunk, and I got like a 14-inch crappie, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And then we gritted it out, and I think we caught more fish, but still like just that seeing the Christmas tree on the flasher was like, this is wild.
Oh yeah. That'll never get old.
No.
I mean, even today,
Why?
every time a mark bigger than what you think is a tiny fish just comes blurring up to, I don't care.
Yeah.
I guarantee all 4 of us here are like, we stop breathing for a second and go,
Oh yeah.
and get excited. I mean, I remember watching Tom and I, we went ice fishing earlier this year, and I think was it the first time you used forward facing sonar?
Yeah, it was right after I got my unit. Yep.
The sun was shining off of Tom's smile. The whole Tori was with us, and Tom is over there catching fish, and like you had like this like light bulb come on and go, how did I do this before?
I remember looking at the screen at one point, and there had to be 30 fish that I could see on the forward-facing sonar screen. I was like, what did I do before this? Like the flasher, it was just what you could see below you. This now I can see.
Yeah. Even in down
away.
mode, you can just see them come in from 10, 15 feet away sometimes from the side, and you can see their what they're thinking, right? Like if that fish is sitting here stalling out 6 feet away, I'm like, well, he's probably not going to come in. But if you see one rocking in from 10 feet, you're like, okay, get ready, and then boom, they smash.
And their size.
Exactly.
You can determine sometimes the type of fish they are, all that kind of stuff.
Still, you're only fishing, I guess, in the end of the day, you're just fishing one hole is what you're jigging. So, like, what comes underneath that hole is what you're going to catch, but you can see them around a little better.
Right. Or maybe draw one in.
Yeah.
That you're not going to see with your traditional flasher because it's 10 feet that way. And you're like, there's a good one. So maybe you change your jigging cadence to try to draw that fish in. Like I watch like McComas, Nick Linder, those guys on social media, Jay Siemens. That I think they're doing that a lot. Like they're working their bait and they see that fish in the peripheral. Where I'm pretty confident if they had a Vexlar or Markham, whatever,
you don't even know.
They're not seeing that fish. And you watch their jigging cadence get a lot more erratic because they're like, there's a fish over there. I'm going to try to draw it in. And oftentimes they do. Where if you're not seeing that fish, you might just you just continue with your complacency jigging movement. Yeah. And that big fish 10, 15 feet away just keeps going by. Yeah. Yep. So I see all the advantages.
On Winnipeg last year, that was a huge factor. I feel like.
Oh my God.
Fishing out there, like.
Yeah, because those walleye, there's no structure. They're up in the water column. They're on the bottom, and when you saw them come in from a distance, you perked up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lake trout fishing too, same thing.
Well, we're out here today. I mean, we're on Lake Minnetonka. We're not going to sugarcoat it. Everyone's going to know that because they're going to watch the live feed tonight. But we're out here today trying to catch a metro walleye. Mm-hmm. They exist, believe it or not. Unpopular opinion from so many people. They do. There's actually many metro lakes that have walleyes in them, not just Minnetonka. I mean, you got Waconia, Forest Lake, White Bear Lake, all the Chisago chain. There's a slew of them. I can't even list them all. There's tons of them. And I think it often gets overlooked, right? Everyone thinks about northern Minnesota, Mille Lacs, Leech Lake, Red Cass, Winnie, Lake of the Woods, right? Phenomenal fisheries, better fisheries than what we have down here when you're targeting walleyes. But we're going to try to swing at a metro walleye. And maybe you can chime in on this too. One thing I've noticed with our metro fish, and I might be giving away more than I should, they're oftentimes always weed-orientated fish. Mm-hmm. They live in the weeds. They love the weeds. A lot of the fish we target as we go further north, the aforementioned lakes, basin fish, mudfish, hard bottom fish, rock fish, nomadic fish. I think a lot of the fish we target here, and by here I mean metro, so all these lakes we're talking, they're related to weeds.
Yeah.
They're weed dwellers, and oftentimes they're shallower than we think. And that's going to kind of be our MO today. Is we're going to try to see if we can't jig up a walleye when the sun goes down. But
I think it's also seasonal, like time of the ice, because once you get more snowpack, I mean, so we've got very healthy weeds going on right now because there's a lot of sunlight, very little snow, so they're getting a lot of the nutrients that they need to continue thriving. So the fish are, like the fish we've already seen today are, very active and the weeds are active, and as that season transitions and the ice gets thicker and might get some more snowpack, those weeds kind of start to dwindle and the fish are going to move towards those, thermocline changes. They move into that deeper water a little bit. So traditionally, like growing up, I was always, 17 to 22 feet for walleyes. I mean, that was like a religion almost. And, and that's true. I think later ice, I mean, maybe you disagree with me, but
no, you're right. I mean, I think there's definitely something to be said about even earlier this year. What you mentioned was almost a deterrent to fishing success. Mm-hmm. Too much light was coming through. They could see us more. There wasn't any snow. The ice was thin. The fish were skittish. I mean, I don't know if I've seen more skittish fish than I saw this winter in years.
Yeah. And
it's changed now. Now you can walk on top of them in 7 feet of water, but you go back a few weeks, even in 20-some feet of water, the noise of our boots, the noise of you kneeling down, readjusting would spook the school. And those are just some of the things we deal with in this world of fishing. Now, I think being in the weeds, I think that it helps us. Mm-hmm. It's cover, it's sanctuary, it's comfort.
Vertical cover.
There's bait there. It blocks all kinds of ambient light coming in.
Yep.
And I think that oftentimes is what gives us the upper hand. Now, I'm not saying that in the metro there's not walleyes cruising all of those traditional hard bottom spots. We'd be fools to not think that there's walleyes, main lake reefs, rock piles. Sure.
Yeah.
But so many fish relate to these weeds in the metro because that's where like the cornucopia of everything is going on.
Yeah.
And I think on some of these other lakes, like Cass, Winnie, I guarantee you there's a good weed bite up there for walleyes. I mean, I can't imagine that they're not in the weeds up there too.
Yeah.
It's just not your traditional spots.
Well, and especially following these edges. I mean, it's a highway for them. They're just following structure along. You know, like mutton snapper fishing down the Keys. Like, I'm not fishing on top of the structure. I'm fishing the edges of it. I'm fishing like right around like these soft bottoms. And actually, I know a guy here in Minnesota. He would say, you know, I'm not fishing the main structure. He's like, I'm actually fishing the walleye highways.
Sure.
You know, where it's like, you know, it's
saddles, the connecting
points.
points.
Yeah. He's like, there's highways. He's like, you're going to find a pile of houses here and a pile of houses there. What I'm curious about is what is there in between them and what is drawing them to go from one spot to another. Those are the fish that they're moving, their metabolism's up a little bit because they're not stationary. So they're actually hunting more. So, and he would actually, you know, something he was picking up on was going from like, and he would actually show me with the Vexar. He's like, well, this is a harder bottom right here. And there's a softer bottom based on, like when your gain is set and the thickness of the bottom. He's like, this is a spot I want to fish more than that spot that's 10 feet away because I got a softer bottom. Those are more of a highway and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Like I know we fished a spot this morning and I've been fishing some of these areas for the last week. And it looks like on any traditional map or even running around with your boat, just your generic 200-300 yard weed line. A lot of guys in the summer grab a Ned rig and they just soak it and they cast. What I've noticed that the fish are relating to, similar to what you were alluding to, Nate, is they're looking for those more expansive clumps of weeds.
Yep.
So if you run down that weed line, all of a sudden you're seeing these little jetties of weeds.
Yep.
And they could either come out or they could go in, right? So,
Yep.
but there's something different stopping those fish along what you called it a highway. Walleyes are cruising those weed lines. Oh, look at this. A whole bunch more weeds. Or hey, look at this. A big indent in the weeds.
Yep.
And it's drawing in bait fish.
yeah.
That's what those fish are relating to. So what I've seen in the last several days is it's been brutally cold. Hole hopping is not an option. We're talking 15, 20 degrees below zero with winds. We've hunkered down on these abnormalities in the weed line, and we've caught fish all day on these spots. And that just has to show that these fish are stalling out, using these spots. We didn't do anything special.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll cut to the chase. We just sat on a spot where fish are going to live there for a period of time.
Yeah.
And it works. So, and that's just one of those things that, and sometimes you can find these spots in the summertime. I think some of the best spots I found in the winter, I find in the open water season. I'm looking, I'm scanning, I'm marking, I'm waypointing. And then you fine tune your approach maybe in the wintertime once you kind of get over those spots.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nate, do you think growing up in Minnesota helped you become a better captain down in the Keys, and vice versa? Did your time in the Keys, do you think it's going to help you up here again?
I definitely found, like I was talking about earlier, like the way I learned to fish up here proved to be pretty productive for me actually down south. And I haven't had a lot of techniques that I have found down there that have transitioned up here yet. But I'll give that time.
We always say, like, I think ice fishing helps me open water fishing, or even bass fishing helps me become a better walleye fisherman, because you think outside the box. You see what fish are doing in different environments, and then, like, I've caught some pretty nice largemouth when I'm walleye fishing, and I'm like, really? Why the heck was that fish there? Then you learn these little nuances of what they do, and I just think expanding, the area you fish, or even states type of water, just has to help you in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. So no spring bobbers down in the Keys.
Well,
for the Goliath grouper, I heard they barely bite.
Well, I will say there was a couple. Trout fishing down in the Keys. In the backcountry, we would use popping corks.
Okay.
It's like a bobber with and you put a peg through it to hold the line wherever you want it. But they're like lipped on the top like a hula popper, and so you pull them and pop them, and that just attracts fish to the area.
Sure.
Well, I did do that walleye fishing up in Ontario in the summer, and surprisingly, like in shallow areas, where it was I was fishing 6 feet. I was using that popping cork.
Yeah.
And it worked. It was just like you'd pop it and walleyes would come over to the area. So I guess that was one thing I was thinking of that transitioned.
Popping corks.
So you're catching walleyes on topwater?
No. It's a bobber.
Yeah,
The bobber.
It's a bobber that makes a lot of noise.
Yeah, the
Oh.
noise attracts them.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I was thinking hula popper.
Yeah. Well, no, the top of it is like hollowed out like that. So when you pull it, it's bloop, it makes that big, loud
Well, it sounds like
noise.
fish feeding
Yeah.
is probably what it does up there on
So-
the surface. So,
So popping corks, that's going to be the new thing this summer.
yeah.
Do we have any with us? Sitting in a hole.
Popping corks for walleyes. I was giving Nate a hard time earlier today because you caught like 5 or 6 largemouth in a row.
Yeah.
And I hollered over at you like, try a frog.
Yeah.
He's over there just, yeah, I don't think I'm kidding. Like, I think Nate almost had like a check cashing bag for the Blackfish Classic through the ice here on Tonka today.
Yeah, you were on.
I mean,
man.
Tommy caught some big ones.
Yeah.
I
They're
mean,
fun through the
yeah.
ice, man.
Well,
See?
it gets us excited because like we are out here trying to catch a walleye and we're going to try our best. We can't promise that. We've caught some the last week or so here. We've caught some big ones during the day.
Yeah.
So like I said earlier, like you set the hook into that fish that comes in, you for a period of time, you think, is that a walleye?
Oh, always.
I thought you
You
had
know?
a walleye on that whole entire
This
time
morning.
when you
Oh,
were
yeah.
fighting
Right
that
away
bass.
this morning. Yep.
Yeah.
Because it was the first one
I
of the
wasn't
day.
sold.
You weren't?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not a pike. It's not running far enough. And you're like, I've got walleyes here. And I'm like, oh, maybe this is stinking walleye up in the weeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3.5 pound largemouth.
Yeah. See, when this thing, you guys with your tech, you're sitting here thinking about all the fish around you. I'm just getting focused on what's straight down
Yeah,
beneath me.
exactly.
So got to handle the task at hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tonight we're going to try to catch a walleye. We're going to kind of do a 1-2 punch. At least I'm going to have a jig and spoon,
Yep.
minnow head. I'm going to have a live minnow. What are you doing, Nate?
Yeah, I'll do. I'm gonna have a bobber set up on one end of the house, and definitely, jigging spoon on the other end.
Yeah.
Small. I'm still
Yeah.
thinking small. I think they're coming off cold front. I think we're gonna be. We're in a great spot. I mean, obviously a ton of activity, but yeah, definitely a minnow on one end and a jigging spoon on the other. So
Yeah. How about you, Drew?
I'm going minnow bobber, and then I might try that little psycho shad.
Ooh,
Just see if
getting
they
psycho.
react at it at all. Sometimes if you give them the action, they'll come in, but we'll be able to tell quick if one comes in and stops. I'll be like, all right, see you later, psycho shad. I need my PT spoon. So
Tom, what are you tying on?
Yeah, pretty much same as you guys. Probably do some type of dead stick with a minnow, and then rattling PT spoon is usually my go-to. So
if anything swims around here, he's gonna have to bite something.
Yeah, he
We're
just
gonna
doesn't
be-
have a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to have
It's a
the
buffet.
yeah, nailed it. I like that double XL, that drop double XL as for my set line. I used it on Lake of the Woods a couple weekends ago. I've caught so many fish on that. It's if you're not familiar with it, it's a large panfish. Picture our drop jig, but like 3 times bigger. I don't know, bigger hook, bigger weight. It's really, in my opinion, a walleye
It's a
jig.
small walleye jig.
It is, and it's phenomenal. It pegs a fathead minnow extremely well. And I just fish that straight up. I don't fish a bobber with it, nothing. I just fish that straight up on a dead stick, kind of on my knee or on a bucket. And I love it. When you stick them with that jig, you don't lose them. I know Mike Roger, probably maybe listening, I don't know, uses those under his floats on Mille Lacs.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's his go-to jig under a float for open water walleyes on Mille Lacs. And I'll have that tied on tonight. It's pretty fun jig. Easy, super easy to fish. You don't need to overthink it. Drop it down, boom, go.
I might have to drill a couple holes in a row and try a popping cork tonight.
I like that.
Got a little room
Yeah.
to pop it, move
Yeah.
it, make a little
Yeah,
sound,
I'm
and
saying they've never seen it.
I'll
Well,
tell you another thing I think is really important with the spot that I have found that, probably most of fish, walleye fishing I've done, especially at that twilight, I like to work darker colors.
Sure.
A little bit darker colors for more of a silhouette, but also I started using like the, those little glow trays and really glowing up baits too. It's, I don't know, something about, because so much, we're shallower water, but it's amazing. I was telling you earlier how many fish are coming in they're just so fast halfway down the column, even in shallow water, and 10 feet, and he's 4 feet down, 5 feet down. So it's really good I actually like to pause the bait once or twice on the way down, unless there's something underneath you.
Especially crappies.
Yeah.
Those crappies, a lot of times you don't mark them with a flasher.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're in 7 feet of water, they're halfway down and they come through and you're like, I could not have hit the bottom yet. No, your bait's gone. I already ate it, and it just did a 2-foot jump. We've caught a few crappies here on this spot today, and everyone that I've seen or caught, they were probably the most aggressive fish I've caught today.
Yeah.
By far. Yeah. And that's what they do in these shallow weeds. They're ambush at this point. Probably think whatever we're fishing is some kind of a minnow, something, and it's like, now or never, eat it. Where the bluegills are kind of like, oh, hey, what's going on over here? Like, I'll eat that, no problem. Hey, buddy, what's going on? You know, and bass are just dumb. So, and walleyes, I'm confident we've seen some.
Yep.
I think they're
very
here.
Confident about that.
And I just think it's a timing thing. So we're pretty excited. We haven't really hardcore fished for walleyes yet today. No. Let's be honest. We haven't even, I would say, tried to catch one. It would be by accident at this point.
Yep.
So we're going to save that for this evening. And who knows? Maybe we'll catch a walleye. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll catch 10. Maybe Tom will catch 10. We don't know.
Yep, I'm game for that.
Let's do that. So if you catch a 30, Tom, pandemonium.
Yeah, I'm going to be going crazy.
Coming up 150-pound marlin, 30-pound walleye, checking boxes here, Tom.
Right? Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm feeling confident about you, Tom.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Just keep the camera pointed at you guys. I'll do that.
We're going selfie mode here.
What's all the heavy breathing behind the camera? Oh, Tom. There's a fish looking at his lure right now. Just bear with us. And so, yeah, it's going to be controlled chaos tonight. We're going to have 4 of us fishing in 2 shacks. We're going to butt a couple up together. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. That I promise you is going to happen. And we'll see what goes on. You know, as we get into the doldrums of winter, I mean, right now it's the 22nd of September or January. Yeah. Yeah. So we're still kind of, I don't know, is this the midway point? Not even. Close to
just
midway.
About mid.
So we got a lot of ice fishing ahead of us, 2 months ahead of us around here. And as things progress, I mean, you're going to start to see, we got some of the best ice I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
We're sitting on 18, 19 inches. I didn't measure. It might be 20. I'm not sure.
I bet it's 20.
We're sitting
honestly.
on phenomenal ice here in the metro.
I'll say so too.
I mean, we got our pickup trucks out here. Not that I'm going to tell everyone listening just to go rip around. Do not do that. I mean, you still need to take care of yourself and do your due diligence and check. But if you are involved in the sport of ice fishing and you like doing it, you got a year. This is a year to go do it. So zero excuses. Zero excuses. Now, yesterday, sure, 20 below zero, 40-mile-an-hour wind chill.
That's tough.
Totally get it. But as we look towards, like, even this coming weekend, mid-20s.
Yep.
Lots of ice.
I'm taking the boys out.
Beautiful. Let's go.
Yep.
Let's go.
No excuse.
Yeah. Where are you going?
Crappie? Big
What'd
crappies?
you like to know?
Yes, coordinates.
Gosh, you know what's funny is I have found I'm so picky because I always want to chase a specific fish. But last weekend we were on our cabin lake, which is not a great ice fishing lake. And the boys were catching like finger-sized perch. And I'm like, let's move. They're like, this is amazing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get that joy back because they must have caught 40. They were like the size of my thumb. But they were
You
like,
got really big hands.
I don't know what that. But they just, I mean, so to each their own, just tiny hooks, and that made their day. I mean, they loved it. Of course, they finished up with a 22.5-inch walleye at the end of the night, but still,
Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be chasing, I'll be actually living on Tonka for a while here. We have the UPL this weekend out here. I'll be out here the next few days guiding, chasing panfish, maybe a walleye. We've had a good run in the morning when the sun comes up catching a walleye. I have not done the evening bite much at all here, to be honest. Nate, you have quite a bit.
Yep.
But I'll be doing that, chasing mostly panfish. I really turned my focus to bluegills, crappies in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Drew made a combo in the summer. A lot of guys are fishing bass and stuff. In the winter, I turned my focus heavily to crappies, bluegills. It's plentiful. We have good fishing here in the Twin Cities, believe it or not. We really do.
Yeah.
And we tend to do
biters.
that. Yeah. People can catch them. They're having fun. They can learn. You can educate them when they're on top of fish versus like maybe catching 2 because they're targeting walleyes. Nope, there's fish below you. Here's what you got to do. You can get better at fishing.
Yeah.
It's a great way.
Well, I mean, you come out here, it's like, what do we catch? 15 plus bass? I mean, nice fun. I mean, any kid would have a blast with that.
Any adult.
Yeah.
I mean,
I did. I get
catching
real giddy.
Yeah, you were giggling over there.
Yeah, setting the hook is fun no matter what.
You guys going anywhere? Drew, Tom, this weekend? What are you doing?
I don't know about this weekend, but I know my wife and I are actually going to go ice camping here in a couple weeks.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
It's an annual thing, right?
It is, yeah. We've done it a few times now. Bring the dog with, hopefully catch some walleyes, maybe some eelpout.
Leech?
Nice.
Leech
Lake?
Oh,
There you
Lake,
go.
Yep, that's where I like to
Heck
go.
yeah.
So.
I got a couple weekends to Red coming up, and then trying to get a Winnipeg weekend lined up.
Heck yeah.
So
Yep.
I'm staying in town this weekend. I'll probably fish at least one morning or day. I'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Not too worried.
Red crappies or red
Oh, yeah.
walleyes?
Crappies.
Or yes.
Yes.
Crappies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, fish out at Wheelhouse, hopefully catch some walleyes, and then
Mhm.
during the day, feel a little ambitious, go catch the crappies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of running, gunning, but it's fun.
Yeah.
I see. I love catching. I mean, walleyes. All this is great, but something about that silverback
Oh,
coming
yeah.
up through a dinner plate coming up
Oh,
through
yeah.
the hole.
Big crappies
Yeah.
are pretty
Oh.
special. And they're really, I mean, I've heard a lot of like ice fishermen reference them as like magical, you know. That is. I mean, I think it's
don't know
cool
why.
when you catch big crappies.
Yeah.
Like I even like catch them in the summer, but when you catch like big crappies ice fishing,
Yeah.
they definitely have a place in, I think, almost every ice angler's heart. Even the guy that's like all summer long, I don't fish for panfish, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
They start catching 12, 13-inch crappies, 14-inch crappies through the ice. They get jacked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have fun.
I
mean-
grew up on crappies. I think with my grandfather up north and my dad, that was kind of like the thing we did. So I think it's almost a little nostalgia, you know, mixed with just, I don't know, something about a crappie that you can, I mean, put multiple thumbs in his mouth if you wanted to. I mean,
I wonder if it's just like because I don't like personally. I haven't caught many like huge crappies. I've windmilled through the 7-9 inchers, right? And then if I were to catch a 3-pound crappie, I would probably just tip over and die right there. I'd be just shell shocked.
I'd
I'm
fill
like,
my
what?
pants.
Like, what is it? It's the size of this board. Like that is not a crappie.
So Drew
There's no way.
Drew would die. Nate would fill his pants.
Yeah,
Tommy,
totally full.
3-pound
Wear a diaper.
crappie. What's
If I've ever just tipped over on the ice, boys, it's 'cause
What's
I just got
happening?
a 3-pound.
I'll wear a diaper that day.
Yeah. No boy. Yeah.
That's
I'll know when Nate's hole hopping. Crunchy, 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 crunchy. There's a chance that a 2 or 3 pounder Graves got a diaper on. No, I'm actually pumped for tonight. I think this will be a good time. Drew and I have done this Facebook Live for
This will be the third year.
third
I
or
think.
fourth year.
Oh, fourth actually. No,
Yeah.
the first year you just did it solo, but I was there behind
Yeah.
the camera.
That was on Tonka.
Yeah.
And then the 2 years we went up
Last year
north.
We went up north, did the crappie night bite thing. Yeah.
And now we're back here on Tonka trying to catch a walleye.
Yeah, this is we've
And
tried.
we've never
to up
tried the
bar.
walleye thing. Yeah, we've never done the walleye thing. So
Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
We have some food to critique coming up.
yeah.
Don't get don't
Blackened Johnsonville.
I'm sure
Rocks.
on Facebook Live tonight we'll talk about how well fed these guys are. So
Gosh.
we'll be just fine. So Nate, anything else you want to chat about since we're anything else that you want to anything pressing, any messages you want to send out there, any final thoughts or tips or techniques that you think the listeners would get a kick out of?
I don't know if you get a kick out of it, but what's funny is I used to keep a ledger of all my fishing. I mean, I made the custom spreadsheet, fit for, and I kept track of everything, and ironically, when I went to get my captain's license, it was pretty cool to actually have that because they say you have to have X amount of days on certain types of water. So it actually, I don't picture many guys to keep track of it. I actually did. It was like, oh, these are the days. And then they give you a license based off of where you fished and how much you fished, et cetera. But as funny as when you look back and you're like, oh, the temp that day and cloud cover, no cloud cover, and you really start to learn was really fun. But I did have this one entry that was really terrible. One time I was out on Parker's Lake, in Plymouth with a buddy. And it was like, I swear it was like 40-mile-an-hour winds. Like I couldn't, and we're fishing, I hadn't caught anything the whole day. I'm like, dude, I'm just going to throw the anchor. I'm tired of this. I was trying to, and he's nitpicking me in the back while I'm running the trolling motor. I was like, all right, I throw the anchor and the anchor just came loose to the rope.
It was that kind of day.
So he's like, he looks at me, he's like,
I've
hey,
done that.
write that down in your ledger. So that was my mark in my ledger for that day. It was -1 anchor.
I've done that.
So,
Sometimes you have bad days,
but you know,
you
what's
can
funny
look
is,
back at it.
when you fish so much, you can look back on all that stuff, and I would encourage everybody keep track of stuff. It's fun to look back and see and all of a sudden something made sense to you, and you're like, oh, this day, this year, this temp, this ice, this cloud cover, and you go back and you have another successful day.
Yeah.
Based off your ledger. It's kind of cool to. I don't know. I just nerd out on that stuff.
Yeah.
But
And one of my favorite features of Facebook is the memories. Because
yeah,
I saw
Yes.
today, I don't know, 4 years ago, whatever, we caught some specific fish on a specific body of water. And I'm like,
sure.
I just did that a few days ago in that same body of water, almost a very similar bite.
Yeah.
And you start to put some correlation together with some of this stuff. It's always fun to look back and say, yeah, on this day 4 years ago, it's like, that's my stomach. You got to eat cheddar brats.
Jesus.
And you start to put together some pieces to the puzzle. And yeah, I think that's super cool. I'm jacked up. How about you guys? Anything else? Tom, words of wisdom?
Go catch a marlin.
Go catch.
Okay, Tom, thanks.
Very wise. Very wise.
I was just going to say go ice fishing, but.
Yeah. By marlin, do you mean a 30-inch walleye tonight?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good to me.
Yes.
You know, if you want to learn, just go, you know, a lot of people, they're just, it seems daunting to go start. Where do I drill? What do I do? How do I start? Go out, you know, go find somebody that wants to, you know, listen to the podcast, you know, watch the videos. I mean, before I moved down to the Keys, I watched every episode of every guy that fished in the Keys. I guarantee you, up until 2017, I watched everything. I learned so much, but I mean, I'm a sponge for that stuff. But so by the time I got down there, I was like, this guy did that, you know, and I'm like, I can at least, I could get through it, you know?
Yep.
No, I'm excited. We're going to put our best foot forward tonight. We got a lot more stuff ahead of us. I mean, this is only we talked about maybe middle of the ice fishing season. So if you're listening, there's a ton of ice fishing ahead of us.
Yep.
We're excited. If you have something you want to listen to, let us know. If you're listening to the podcast, if there's a topic that you want us to hit on, we'll gladly hit on. And I know Durham's also thinking of ideas in northern Minnesota. So if you have something you want us to discuss, let us know. Otherwise, we'll keep firing from the hip, getting great guests like Nate on here, talking fishing and going from there. Otherwise, I don't know. It's about us and a bus.
That's it.
Yeah, we get to.
Durham has a couple episodes coming out too this week, so
sweet.
We got some good stuff to listen to.
I love it.
Going off the like mid-season last year at this point, we were like nervous we were done, and we pretty much were done ice fishing leading into early February. So be grateful.
Wow.
Yeah,
we have.
I wasn't here last year.
It was bad.
It was bad. Like
it
was
grateful.
raining and it was like super warm.
The most ice we got in the metro was 8 inches last year.
Wow.
Yeah, we were done. So we like doubled our season already.
Take advantage of it.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's good.
crazy.
So go out there, have some fun. Well, thank you, Nate. Appreciate you, buddy.
Nate. Nothing to it
We're going
but
to
do
sign
it.
off
Thank
and
you,
we're going to
sir.
regroup and reset the scene here. And we're going to be going live out of this exact same fish house. In what time is it?
I don't know. I feel
Time
very
for cheddar
grouped.
brats, man.
Oh, 2 hours going live.
Let me
Here we
get
go.
some of that cheddar.
Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time.